Hey everybody, I got a great request from a person asking, how would I do a wood graving effect in Photoshop? But he's fairly new to Photoshop and wants to keep it as simple as possible. Are we ready to do something that looks like this right here? Or we can even do something with text that looks like this right there. And we'll even do something with, say, some graphics that look like that right there. So are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. All right, this person, it's been a while, but I'm having a lot of people requesting different things back to me, and I've got a backlog of stuff, and I can't promise I can do all of them, but this was asked about a month and a half ago. So this is by Emmanuel. Emmanuel did not give me permission to use his full name, so I'm just going to use the first name. And he wanted to learn how to do an engraving technique, like in wood, but he's new to Photoshop and wants to keep it as simple as possible. So there is a gotcha on this. So I'm going to show different variations of using this technique, but then the gotcha I'll show you toward the end, and I'll show you how you might approach this. So let's dive right into Photoshop and get started with this. And what I did was, let me go to the open dialog box. I went to Adobe stock, and you can get this for free if you're subscribing to the Adobe Photoshop, and that is this image right there. Now you can go to other websites that offer free stock images that you can get. If you're interested in this one, I'll keep this up on the screen right there, but you can look at the code number if you want. But I just went to, again, Adobe stock and went to a category called free. Now you are limited to how many things you can download in a month, so just be careful on that. And I also downloaded this one, sort of like a graphics. I'll use that one too, right there. These other two right here I'm going to use. Those are old stock images I've had for years. I can't even remember where I got them, but I just want to show you that we can do stuff with a photograph, which I'm going to do to start off, and then we'll work with these other two right there. So I'm going to go over here and multi-select the wood background right there and this portrait right there, and select open so that it opens both of them. And when they open up, let me just pull back on this one a little bit. To start this out, what I want to do is I want to make a selection of my subject. Now this works really well with portraits. And again, this was done on a plain background. If it's a busy background based on the colors and that, you can still probably extract that out, but I'm going to go to the contextual taskbar. Now, if it's not open, which it should be, but it's under a window drop-down menu, and it's toward the very bottom here called contextual taskbar. Mine is anchored at the top right here on the option bar, so I'm just going to choose select subject. So let it do its thing. It takes a few seconds for that to do, or to select your object, which is this portrait. Now that that's selected, I'm going to do Control J or Command J on a Mac, which copies it up to a new layer right there. And I'm going to close out of the bottom one by just selecting the eyeball so it's hidden. And with this one selected, what I want to do, because it's in color, I want to convert this to black and white. So I'm going to come down here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, select that, and I'm going to choose black and white. That's our non-destructive filter that we can apply. And then it's up to you to come over here to properties and adjust this based on the look that you want to get. We can always come back to this to change it, but for right now, I'm going to push this up a little bit. And the yellows, I'm going to push that further to the right. And magenta, look what it's doing to the lips. So if I want to push the lips out a bit, let me do that. And then if I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to click on the layer below. So both of these layers are now selected. And what I want to do is come down to the, again, Oreo cookie dipped in milk. And what I want to choose, oh, I take that back. Sorry about that. Brain freeze. I want to do a right mouse click right there. And I want to choose convert this to a smart object. So that way I can always come back to this and make some adjustments and changes, which I'll share with you a little bit later. But once I have that done, I'm now going to go to the filter drop-down menu here, and I'm going to go to a category called Stylize. And under Stylize in the flyout menu, I'm going to choose Emboss. Now, when I choose Emboss and this opens up, this is where you have to be careful. And I'm going to give you some examples a little bit later on some gotchas here. But in this one, because I have a lot of smooth area, I'm going to push this and be very aggressive all the way, almost to the end there. Now let's push it all the way to the end. And in this one, if I move this, you can see the adjustment, what's happening. And because it's a smart object layer, I can always come back to readjust this, but I'm going to pull this back a bit to about, in this example, 12, and then select OK. So now that I have that done, what I'm going to do is I have this opened up already. Let's pull back on this a bit. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to grab this layer, click down, and drag to my tab over here that has the wood background. Drop this in, and I might have to resize this. So Control T, Command T on a Mac to adjust that. And I might just crop off the top of the hat a little bit. I mean, it's up to you on how you're going to do this, but let me just drop that right there and enter on the keyboard, just select that. Okay, now that I have that selected, what I'm going to do is do a blending mode here in layers, and I'm going to choose, now here's where you have to play with this. Overlay could be used a lot, soft light could be, and it's always based on the image and stuff. Hard light could be used, vivid light has more of a burning effect, and a lot of this is just personal. So I'll try different ones with these different examples here, but I'm going to start with, say, overlay. And then what I want to do is enhance that a little bit. So I would just do Control J or Command J. Now I'm going to make sure I'm on this layer here. So Control J, Command J on a Mac, and it just brings that in more. So if I do it again, you can see it intensifies that look right there. And you go as far as you want to go with that. I'm not telling you should go 2 or 3 times. You could build even more on it or less. But consider doing this. Let me zoom in on this a bit so we can see this. On the very top one here, I'm going to add a different effect. And I'm going to go to the filter drop-down menu, and I'm going to come to the blur category, and I'm going to choose Gaussian blur. And when I do that, hopefully you can see the edge, how it just sort of smooths it out and gives it a little bit more dimension right there. So there's my before and after. Hopefully that shows up. And then click on OK to accept that. So that, Emmanuel, is probably the easiest way I would know how to do sort of an engraved look on wood for yourself. And you could also play around with, I'm just going to shoot from the hip here. I'm going to come down here to Effects right there. And I'm going to click on that and choose in the drop-down menu, I'm going to choose Drop Shadow. And if you want to add, you could actually put in the drop shadow, put the angle that you want right here. I'm just sort of playing with this. This is the opacity. Now, I wouldn't go that far, but you might just to add some depth to that a little bit. And you could play with distance right here, just being a little bit aggressive so we can see this. But there's a before and after when I turn this on and off. So you might want to add that and play with that. Also, consider doing this. I'm going to come down to the background right there, and let's go over here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, and I'm going to choose brightness and contrast. And maybe I want to push the contrast up a little bit, but the brightness down a little bit on the wood background that I have here. So again, all these are just options. I'm trying to throw in different curveballs here that to allow you to go in and change and modify things. But that is probably one of the easiest ways I know on how to create sort of a, burnt wood or carving out of wood right there. And again, it's up to you and how far you go with that. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, let me show you another thing that you might fall into, and that is doing a graphic. So let's jump into that one right now. All right, now we're going to work with a graphic. And then the third option I'm going to share with you toward the end here is sort of a got you if you're using like a photograph and it just isn't coming out right. I want to make sure you understand how you might approach it to make it look like you're engraving, into wood. So, but let's get back over here, and I don't need this right now. So let's close out of this. We're not going to save that. and we don't need that, so I'm going to close out of that. So what I'm going to do here is let's open up the background again, and we're going to pick the graphic right there. And we'll select open. And then again, this, just want to resize that a little bit visually. And then back here, I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did before. So again, this is more like a pattern graphic background. And what I want to do is go back to the contextual taskbar and choose select subject. So let it do its thing. And again, it takes about 15 seconds. And I'm going to do something a little bit different so you understand that you can change something when it comes to smart object layers. But once I have that selected, Control J, Command J on a Mac to copy that up, just like I did before with the image. I'm going to close out of this image so we don't see it, the background, and I'm on this layer right there. And the next thing we learn to do is come down to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk and choose black and white right there. And then you can make some adjustments based on the visuals. I'm just going to do that for right now. And then I'm going to hold the Shift key down to select both layers, right mouse click, and I'm going to choose Convert to Smart Object. Now, once that is done, I'm just going to come back over here to the Filter drop-down menu, just like last time. I'm just repeating the process. Come down to Stylize and Emboss. And then make your adjustment with the emboss. Now, that doesn't look too bad if I push that up. By the way, you could also play with the angle here. See how that adjusts the area? So that's up to you and how you want to adjust that angle right there to get the look that you want. And again, the height right there, how aggressive you want to get. Now, because it's a smart object layer, we can adjust this later if we change our mind. So I'm going to push that back a little bit, then click on OK to accept that. Now that I'm done, I'm going to take this again, just like I did last time. I'm going to click and drag it to the other tab to drop it down in the wood area right there. Just position it where you want. I'll leave it alone right there. And then my blending modes. And last time I think I chose overlay, which you can still keep, but let me just use a different one, like, let's go to vivid light, just to be different. And again, Control J, Command J on a Mac, and maybe again to get over aggressive with that. Just to save time, I'm not going to go to the top to add a blending mode, but I want you to see this. This is the smart object layer that I duplicated 3 times. And again, I did Control J or Command J on a Mac. What I want to emphasize is when you have a smart object layer and you do a generic copy, these are linked together. So I'll show you something here. I'm going to change the look of this. If you take a look at the petals right there in the middle of that, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to double click to open up the smart object layer. And I'm going to go to the black and white layer right here, and I'm going to change the settings. I'm going to move the yellow to all the way to the left, which now means I can't see that inside of that flower right there, the center part. And if I close out, and again, this is totally non-destructive, so I can change my mind later. I'm going to close out of the smart object layer. Yes, to update that. It will drop that right back in, and see, it's gone. And now if I come over to this layer right here, because I was on the top one, if I come to the middle one and I double click on the smart object layer, you can see that the yellow is pushed to the left, because anything I do on one of the smart object layer, because it's linked to those other ones, it makes the same modification. So that's what you need to know if you're just duplicating and copying up normally smart object layers. They are linked together. If you didn't want to do that, then you really need to pick a different method that I've talked about in the past before, and that is you would be doing a right mouse click and you would be choosing something called, new smart object via copy. And if you did that, they are not linked. So if you change one in one layer, it doesn't update it in the other one right there. So I've talked about that again in the past. By the way, if you're learning anything, if you can do me a favor, and that is please like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, which is at least once a week, you'll get notified on that. Okay, so there's another way that we can approach, and that is we can actually use graphics if we want. But let me share with you the next issue, and that is if you're using a different type of photograph that isn't so much smooth, you might run into a problem and you'll have to make some adjustments. So let's get into that one right now. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, in this example, you might run into a problem that I'm going to share with you and then how you might approach in correcting this. So let me go back to Photoshop here, and we don't need this anymore. Let me close out of that. And you know what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select the top layer, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select the very last layer right there of the graphics. And I'm just going to choose Delete on my keyboard. That way I don't have to reopen up this background image again. So let me go back to the open dialog box, and I'm going to grab this. And this is going to be a little bit different now. Again, same technique. I'm going to go to the contextual taskbar and say, hey, select subject. So again, it's going to take a while to do that. And then Control J, Command J on a Mac to copy that up. And I'm going to close out of that right there. And then when that is selected, if I do this normally where I'm going to come over here to, again, just like we did last time, and that is I'm going to go over here because this looks like it's black and white, but there is some color in it. So I'm going to go to the black and white, not a destructive layer there, and I'm just going to play with this to change the black and white look that I want. And then after you're done, again, same process. I'm going to hold the Shift key down to select both layers, right mouse click, and choose to convert that to a Smart Object layer. So let's convert to Smart Object. And now that I have that done, I'm going to go to the Filter drop-down menu again, and we're going to choose the category called Stylize and Emboss. And here's the issue. If I play with this, and there's a lot of detail and stuff there. If I click on OK to adjust that, and then let's move this into our background there and do a blending mode. And the blending mode would be like overlay or soft light or whatever. It doesn't have, let's just do overlay. It doesn't have a real natural look, or may not, because there's just too much detail in it. You wouldn't have that in, say, a wood engraving or carving and stuff. So you might want to consider doing this because, again, it's a Smart Object layer. I'm going to, again, just double click on this to open it up. And what I want to do is, actually, I didn't have to do that. I take that back. Let me close out of that. I'm sorry. Emboss right there. It's in the Smart Object layer. So again, I'm going to double click on this. And this is where you want to play with the height. So you might want to smooth this out, or the amount. There's the amount. If I pull it back, see what's happening there? See how, let me push the height up a little bit. But the amount, that's just sort of the gotcha. You don't want to go too far because it's adding too much detail in there. So maybe you want to smooth that out. And again, every image is going to be different. So let me pull that back a little bit and then click on OK to accept that. And again, I could duplicate that with Control J if you want to enhance that. But you'll get a better natural look with that. So again, anytime you do this, be aware that if you're getting too much detail and it doesn't have a good look, like an engraving, you want to go back to the emboss area, double click on it, make some adjustments right there, and then accept that to change the look. Also, don't limit your thinking. You could drop in text. So instead of doing this concept with an image, type in text and walk through the same methodology to get the look that you want. So hopefully this is helpful. Emmanuel, hopefully this makes sense. I try to do this in a very simplified way for you in Photoshop, because in Photoshop, we've learned over the years, there isn't a single way of doing things, and the best way is your way. But again, I know a lot of people are new to this, and I'm trying to approach this in a very simplified way. So hopefully this is helpful for you. And hopefully you guys have learned something. And let's try this technique. Again, let's think creatively out of the box, and I mean literally out of the box. Until next time, see ya.